For 15 years, I traded my life for money in the world's worst hellholes. Also, my wife and kid could live the good life. This time, I came home without telling a soul, planning to surprise her. When I got to our building, the elevator was out. I had to take the stairs. We live on the 12th floor. As I hit the landing on the 11th, I heard it, the familiar, breathless moans of my wife. And a man's voice. "Babe, isn't your husband coming home soon?" My wife laughed. "What's there to be scared of? Even if he came back right now, he just feels sorry for me." I looked down at the Harry Winston diamond necklace in my hand, the one I'd bought for her. I smiled. I turned around and walked back down the stairs. I threw the necklace into the dumpster, along with the domestic SIM card I'd kept for 15 years. A 15-year marriage over. The darkness of the trash bin swallowed the last glimmer of the diamond's light, and with it, the last 15 years of warmth left in my heart. I pulled a heavily worn satellite phone from my pocket, a phone Isabella had never seen. I dialed a number I knew by heart. "Initiate Plan B," I said, my voice as calm as a frozen lake. "Freeze all associated accounts not authorized by me personally." A crisp, respectful voice answered on the other end. "Yes, sir." Half an hour later, I was standing in the presidential suite of the city's top hotel. I stripped off the old clothes, caked with dust and the stench of sweat, and threw them in a trash bag. My assistant had already laid out a brand-new, custom-tailored suit, the tag still on. I changed and walked to the enormous floor-to-ceiling mirror. The man looking back was a stranger, yet familiar. His skin was dark, his hands calloused, but his eyes were sharp as a hawk's. 15 years in the wilderness had sanded away my innocence and sharpened my claws. The next day, Isabella's good life came to an end. She was in a luxury boutique, picking out the latest model watch for her boy toy Kyle. "This one, wrap it up," she said, elegantly handing over her black card. The salesperson's smile was fawning and reverent. 3 seconds later, the POS terminal let out a shrill beep. The salesperson's smile froze. "Ms. Rossi, I'm sorry, but there seems to be a problem with this card." Isabella frowned. "How is that possible? Try this one." She handed over another one of her supplementary cards. Beep. Still no good. "Ms. Rossi, this one isn't working either." The salesperson's expression began to shift from respect to curiosity, with a hint of disdain. Other customers started to glance over. Isabella's face flushed crimson. "Is your damn machine broken?" she snapped, pulling out her phone to call me directly. A cold, automated voice greeted her. "The number you have dialed is not in service." "Not in service?" Isabella froze. Unwilling to give up, she opened iMessage and sent me a voice note. A bright red, not delivered notification stabbed her in the eyes. "He blocked me." A strange sense of panic seized her. Forgetting the watch, she hurried out of the boutique, the salesperson's scornful gaze like a needle in her back. Back at home, she posted her Instagram story. "Some people don't know how to cherish what they have. They'll regret it one day." The picture was a carefully edited selfie, her eyes mournful and pitiable. She thought I was just throwing a tantrum. Then in a few days, I'd come crawling back, begging for her forgiveness like I always did. She then called our daughter away at a university abroad. "Maya, have you heard from your dad?" "No." "Mom, what's wrong?" "Nothing. He's probably just busy." Isabella hung up, her anxiety deepening. Her lover, Kyle, called. "Babe, did you get the watch?" "Don't ask. The cards wouldn't work, and I can't get a hold of Cole." Kyle chuckled on the other end. "What's the big deal? Your husband's a dinosaur. He's away all the time, probably got his feelings hurt about something, and is trying to get a rise out of you. Just ignore him," he continued. "In a couple of days, he won't be able to stand it. He'll come back on his knees, begging you to forgive him." Isabella was convinced. "That's right. Cole loves me so much. How could he ever really leave me?" But 3 days passed, and I remained a ghost. A notice for overdue utility bills was taped to the door. The payment on her red Porsche was late, and collection agencies were blowing up her phone. Isabella finally realized this time was different. Her lofty confidence began to slide toward the edge of panic. But she still believed I couldn't live without her. This was just another clumsy trick to get her attention. Panic wrapped around Isabella like a vine. She searched for me frantically, calling everyone I might know, only to get the same response. "Can't reach him." A week later, the final straw fell. A letter from a law firm, written in ice-cold language, arrived for her. The $30 million Central Park penthouse she lived in was being liquidated as part of an asset review by its title holder, Apex Strategic Holdings, and she was required to vacate immediately. Apex Strategic Holdings? What was that? Didn't Cole buy the penthouse for me outright? She called the lawyer, whose voice was devoid of emotion. "Ms. Rossi, The title for this property was never transferred to your name. It has always been held by Apex. Mr. Matthews simply granted you long-term residency rights. That authorization has now been revoked. Isabella felt like she'd been struck by lightning. She collapsed onto the sofa. The day she was evicted, the sky was a gloomy, oppressive gray. Several burly men in black suits unceremoniously tossed her Hermes bags, designer shoes, and expensive clothes onto the manicured lawn of the building's courtyard like garbage. "What are you doing? This is my home," she shrieked, her hair a mess, looking completely unhinged. She lunged forward to grab her things, but was shoved aside by a security guard, falling hard onto the ground. "Get out. Cole, you coward. Get the hell out here," she screamed, sitting on the cold ground, cursing at the empty penthouse. Just then, the deep rumble of an engine grew closer. A motorcade of 5 Rolls-Royces pulled up smoothly in front of the building. Neighbors peeked out of their windows, stunned by the ostentatious display. Isabella stopped wailing, staring blankly. The door of the lead Phantom was opened by a chauffeur. A single, gleaming, handcrafted leather shoe touched the pavement. Then I stepped out dressed in a flawless Armani suit. Gold-rimmed glasses, perfectly styled hair, and an aura of cold, absolute authority. When Isabella saw me, she was utterly stunned. Her expression shifted from rage to shock, finally settling into a mask of complete disbelief. Cole, she muttered. "How could you?" I didn't even look at her. I walked straight to my lawyer, who stood beside me, and gave him a nod. "Proceed as planned." The lawyer understood. He turned to Isabella and spoke coldly. "Ms. Rossi, I will repeat myself one last time. This property belongs to Apex Strategic Holdings. Your residency rights officially expired last Friday. Please leave the premises immediately. Apex Strategic Holdings." Cole. Isabella finally connected the two, and an absurd, terrifying thought exploded in her mind. She scrambled up from the ground and rushed toward me, tried to grab my arm. "Cole, what is the meaning of this? Apex is your doing, isn't it? You planned all of this." My bodyguard stepped in front of her like a wall, blocking her path. She couldn't get within a foot of me. Only then did I look at her directly for the first time. There was no trace of 15 years of love in my eyes, no anger from the betrayal. Only the indifference one shows a complete stranger. "Ms. Rossi," I said calmly, "I don't believe we're acquainted." With that, I turned and walked toward the building's entrance, her hysterical screams and curses echoing behind me. To me, they were less significant than the sound of the wind. She didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. Isabella completely fell apart. The 5 words, "I don't believe we're acquainted," were like 5 daggers, shredding her pride and her delusions. She finally understood. I wasn't throwing a tantrum. I was coming for her life. She started to harass me relentlessly. At first, it was threats. "Cole, don't push me. We were married for 15 years. We have a daughter. If you dare do this to me, I'll take you to court and ruin you." I ignored her. My assistant replied on my behalf. "Ms. Rossi, regarding any divorce proceedings, Mr. Matthews' legal team is at your disposal. A reminder that as the adulterous party in a marriage, you will likely not be entitled to any marital assets." The threats turned to tearful begging. She left hundreds of voicemails on my new number, each one a gut-wrenching sob story. "Honey, I was wrong. I was so wrong. It was just a moment of weakness. For the sake of our 15 years together, for Maya's sake, can you please forgive me just this once? I can't live without you, Cole." These were the same cries that used to melt my heart. Now they were just noise. I blocked her number. Unable to find me, she came to my company, the headquarters of Apex Strategic Holdings. I had just finished a conference call with our international partners and was about to head down. My assistant approached me, his face grim. "Sir, Ms. Rossi is downstairs. She's demanding to see you." I adjusted my cufflinks. "Let her wait." I stayed in my office for another 2 hours, cleared my inbox, and then took the elevator down at a leisurely pace. Isabella was wearing a cheap, faded dress. Her face was bare, her hair was dry and brittle, and she looked as withered as a dehydrated flower. The moment she saw me, she rushed forward as if I were her last hope. "Honey," she cried, tears streaming down her face, her voice hoarse. "I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Please don't leave me. I'll do anything you say from now on." I walked past her without a glance, as if she were thin air. My indifference finally broke her. She followed me into the opulent corporate lobby and, in front of all the employees coming and going, dropped to her knees with a thud. "Cole," she screamed, her cry drawing every eye in the room. "Think about our daughter. Think about the 15 years we spent as husband and wife. Please, give me one more chance. The lobby fell silent. Every employee stopped, staring at the scene in shock. Some had looks of pity on their faces. I finally stopped walking. I turned back to look at her, kneeling on the floor, a mocking smile playing on my lips. I walked slowly toward her, took out my phone, and pressed play. A familiar, seductively charming voice echoed clearly through the vast, silent lobby. What's there to be scared of? Even if he came back right now, he'd just feel sorry for me. That coquettish laugh, that utterly careless tone, broadcast through the phone speaker for everyone to hear. In an instant, the looks of pity on the employees' faces turned to undisguised contempt and disgust. All the blood drained from Isabella's face. She collapsed to the floor, her lips trembling as she stared in disbelief at the phone in my hand. I slowly crouched down, leaned close to her ear, and said in a voice only we could hear, word by word, "I'm back, but I don't feel sorry for you." With that, I stood up and brushed off the bottom of my suit jacket, as if flicking away some dirt. I spoke to the security guards who had rushed over. Please escort this woman, who is damaging our corporate image, out of the building. And from now on, she is not to set foot in this building again. Isabella was dragged out by 2 guards. She didn't even struggle, limp as a rag doll with all its bones removed. Her last weapon, her so-called love, had been publicly shattered by my hand. Her world, her reputation, was incinerated. With her dignity crushed on the cold marble floor of the lobby, Isabella became the laughingstock of the city. With every escape route blocked, her only remaining hope was the man who had once whispered sweet nothings to her, Kyle. She dragged her numb, humiliated body to the apartment where Kyle lived. It was a high-end place she had rented for him with my money. She knocked for a long time before he finally opened the door, annoyed. He was wearing a muscle tank, and the moment he saw the disheveled mess that was Isabella, he frowned, his face a mask of undisguised disgust. "What are you doing here?" he snapped, as if shooing away a fly. "Get away from me. Don't let anyone see you." Tears welled up in Isabella's eyes. "Kyle, you're all I have now. Cole left me. He froze all my money." Kyle cut her off impatiently. "That's your problem. What it got to do with me?" He sneered. "I was just having some fun with you. Did you actually take it seriously? I was only sweet to you because you had money and could buy me things. Now you don't have a dime. You expect me to support you? I want a broke, washed-up hag." The words were like poison-tipped knives, stabbing into Isabella's heart. She couldn't believe that this man, who was calling her babe in bed just days ago, could be so cruel. "How can you say that? I gave so much for you." "Gave?" Kyle scoffed. "Every cent you gave was your husband's money. Don't come crying to me now that you've screwed up your own life." He tried to slam the door shut, but Isabella clung desperately to the frame. As they struggled, the elevator dinged open. I stepped out, followed by my legal team. With us was the owner of the high-end gym where Kyle worked, a man named Mr. Wallace. The moment Kyle saw me, and especially Mr. Wallace beside me, his arrogance vanished, replaced by sheer terror. His knees started to shake. Mr. Wallace saw me and immediately broke into a wide, fawning smile. "Mr. Matthews, what a pleasant surprise. Why didn't you let me know you were coming?" I smiled, clapping him on the shoulder, but my gaze went past him to Kyle. "Just here on some personal business, Mr. Wallace, and I want a word with you. I hear your gym is looking for series of funding." At the mention of funding, Mr. Wallace's eyes lit up, and he bowed even lower. Yes. You've got a great ear for business, Mr. Matthews. If we could get the backing of Apex Strategic Holdings, we would be." I held up a hand, cutting him off. Then I tilted my chin toward the terrified, pale-faced Kyle. "We could talk about funding, but I have one condition. I don't like my employees to have questionable morals." "This man," I said, "I don't want to see him in your company again." Mr. Wallace was no fool. He understood immediately. He whipped around and pointed a finger in Kyle's face. "Kyle, you're fired. Get the hell out of here now. We have no place for scum like you in this company." I turned to my lawyer. "Look into this, Mr. Jensen. See if he used his position at the gym to engage in improper financial relationships with female clients, or if he's defrauded anyone. If you find anything, sue him for everything he's worth. I want him to pay back every cent he took, and I want him to face legal consequences." My lawyer nodded. "Understood, sir." Kyle dropped to his knees with a thud. "Not for Isabella, but for me. Mr. Matthews. Sir, I was wrong. I'm not human. Please, you're a big man. Just let me go this one time." I paid him no attention. My eyes landed on the stunned, motionless Isabella. She had just watched me, with a few casual words, destroy her lover's career and future. Her so-called love was a pathetic joke in the face of my absolute power. I looked at her pale face and chuckled softly. You see, this is the man you chose. You betrayed a 15-year marriage for him. Was it worth it? That question drained the last ounce of strength from Isabella. She watched, helpless, as I left with my team, leaving her with a groveling lover and the smoldering ruins of her life. Money, love, and her lover had all turned to ash. Backed into a corner like a feral dog, Isabella finally played her last card. Our daughter, Maya. She filed a lawsuit against me for divorce, demanding half of my assets and full custody of Maya. She naively believed the law would protect her, the weaker party, and that a judge would sympathize with the poor, abandoned wife. In court, her lawyer put on a tearful performance, painting her as a pitiful woman who had dedicated 15 years of her youth to her family, only to be ruthlessly cast aside by her husband after he made his fortune. My client married the defendant in her prime, bore his child, and managed his household. And Mr. Matthews, after striking it rich abroad, immediately returned home to heartlessly kick his wife of 15 years and his own daughter to the curb. I sat at the defendant's table, listening to these twisted lies with a blank expression. When it was our turn, my lawyer didn't give a grand speech. He simply presented the evidence, calmly, piece by piece. Your Honor, these are Ms. Rossi's credit card statements from the past year, with total expenditures exceeding $2 million. Over 90% of these purchases were for luxury goods and men's accessories. These are hotel records showing Ms. Rossi and a Mr. Kyle Jensen, a fitness instructor, checking into hotels together on 37 separate occasions over the last 6 months. This is security footage from their residence, showing Ms. Rossi not returning home overnight on 45 separate days in the last 3 months. As each piece of irrefutable evidence was displayed on the large screen, Isabella's lawyer fell silent. His face went from red to white, then to a sickly green. In the plaintiff's gallery, Isabella's body trembled uncontrollably. But it wasn't over. My lawyer spoke again, his voice even. At this time, we would like to call a witness, Ms. Maya Matthews, psychologist, Dr. Evans. A gentle-looking, middle-aged woman with glasses took the stand. She presented a professional psychological evaluation. Based on multiple sessions with Maya over the past 2 months, she has begun to exhibit symptoms of mild anxiety and self-deprecation. The cause is that her mother, Ms. Rossi, has been consistently feeding her negative ideas, such as, your father doesn't love us anymore, he's just a money-making machine, and he abandoned us. This, combined with emotional neglect, has caused the child significant psychological trauma. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Isabella shot to her feet, pointing at the doctor and screaming, You're lying. I never did that. The judge banged his gavel, warning her to be quiet. The final, fatal blow came from a recording. My lawyer pressed play. The young, innocent voice of my daughter, Maya, filled the room, but was quickly cut off by Isabella's impatient tone. Stop crying. What's the use of crying? Maya, listen to me. When we go to court in a few days, you have to help Mommy. When the judge asks who you want to live with, you tell him you want to live with me. Do you hear me? That's the only way the judge will give me custody, and it's the only way your father will give us money so we can keep living a good life. If you don't do what I say, you'll be ruining my life, and we'll both end up begging on the streets. When the recording finished, the courtroom was deathly silent. Everyone looked at Isabella with an indescribable expression. Even her own lawyer bowed his head in shame. To use her own daughter, to coach her to lie in court, all for the sake of money. How cruel, how selfish could one woman be? Isabella collapsed into her seat, her face ashen. The judge delivered the verdict on the spot. Full custody of Maya was granted to me. As the at-fault party in the marriage who had also attempted to hide and transfer marital assets, the things she bought for Kyle, Isabella was not entitled to any portion of my post-marital income, let alone any assets of Apex Strategic Holdings, which was founded before the marriage. She walked away with nothing. Stepping out of the courthouse, the sunlight was blinding. Maya ran over from her grandmother's side and hugged my leg tightly. Daddy! I knelt down and stroked her head, a genuine, gentle smile spreading across my face for the first time in 15 years. It's okay, Maya. Daddy's here. Isabella also emerged from the courtroom. Seeing us, she tried to rush over, but was stopped by the bailiffs. She had lost her final bargaining chip. She had lost everything and everyone. But her punishment was just beginning. Having lost the case and her daughter, Isabella was truly alone. But the parasites who had been feeding off her hadn't yet realized their own doom was upon them. Her family, her parents, and her good-for-nothing brother, Ricky, had been living off me for the past 15 years, enjoying a lifestyle far beyond their means. They lived in a house I bought. Ricky ran a business I funded, and even their daily expenses were paid for by Isabella's supplementary card. Now that Isabella had fallen, their first instinct wasn't to worry about their daughter, but to attack me. They showed up outside the Apex building with banners that read, "Heartless capitalist Cole Matthews abandons wife and child." Isabella's mother sat on the ground, slapping her thighs and wailing. "This is a travesty. My daughter was with him for 15 years. She deserved better. Now that he's rich, he's thrown our whole family away. He's a monster." Her brother, Ricky, was even more brazen, pointing at the company entrance and cursing. "Cole, you son of a bitch, get out here. Everything you have, you owe to my sister. You think you're so great with your dirty money? You're nothing but an ungrateful bastard." I didn't even bother to deal with them myself. My assistant went down with a few security guards and politely invited them into a nearby conference room. He didn't argue with them. He simply turned on the projector. A video began to play. It was a compilation of them over the past few years, making demands and mocking me behind my back, all gathered through technical means I'd had my assistant arrange in advance. "Sis, tell Cole I want a new BMW. Have him buy it for me. Mom, the shop's short on cash. Get my brother-in-law to wire another 50 grand. Cole's money grows on trees, anyway. How hard can digging for rocks in some third-world country be?" My sister's got him wrapped around her finger. He wouldn't dare say no to her. The video clearly recorded their ugly, greedy faces and avaricious words. In the conference room, the family's expressions turned from anger to embarrassment and finally to terror. After the video ended, my assistant placed a stack of documents gently in front of them. "Mr. and Mrs. Rossi, Mr. Matthews has officially ceased all gifts and financial support to you. Mr. Ricky Rossi, the job you currently hold was provided as a favor to Mr. Matthews by one of our partners. As of tomorrow, you no longer need to go to work. The 3-bedroom apartment you reside in is titled under the name of a friend of Mr. Matthews. The owner has decided to reclaim the property. You have 1 week to vacate. The bar that you operate, Mr. Rossi, is on a property Mr. Matthews purchased years ago. The lease has expired, and my company has decided not to renew." With every sentence my assistant spoke, the color drained further from their faces. Isabella's mother started throwing a tantrum, rolling on the floor. "You can't do this. You're trying to kill us." Ricky, enraged and humiliated, lunged forward to attack, but was immediately restrained by 2 large security guards. "Escort them out," my assistant ordered. Crying, shouting, and cursing, the family was dragged out of the building. I stood at the window of my top-floor office, watching the 3 pathetic figures making a scene below, feeling nothing. For all these years, I thought I was supporting family. In the end, they were just a pack of ungrateful leeches. The consequences came swiftly. Ricky, a heavy gambler, was deep in debt to loan sharks. Without my money, his leg was soon broken by collectors. His parents, kicked out of their home with no means of support, were forced to rent a squalid room in the city's poorest neighborhood. They directed all their rage at Isabella, calling her a jinx who had ruined the entire family. The same family that had once adored her now treated her like poison. Isabella's world, in the truest sense, had been salted. There was nowhere left for her to go. Abandoned by the entire world, Isabella had nowhere to run. Cold and hungry, she was drawn, as if by ghost, back to where it all began. The dilapidated old tenement building in the oldest part of the city. When we first married, we lived here in a tiny studio apartment less than 300 square feet. The hallways were cluttered with junk, and the air was thick with the smell of damp and cooking fumes. It was an ironic contrast to the grand penthouse she had once called home. She walked blankly up the creaking stairs and ran into an old woman carrying a basket of groceries. It was Mrs. Peterson, an old neighbor who had watched us get married, who had seen me leave, full of ambition. Mrs. Peterson looked at the haggard woman with empty eyes, taking a long moment to recognize her. "Is that Isabella, dear?" she asked hesitantly. Isabella's tears finally broke. Seeing her pathetic state, Mrs. Peterson sighed and pulled her into a corner of the stairwell. "Child, how did you let your life come to this? Cole was such a good man, you too." At the mention of my name, Isabella's resentment and hatred surged again. She sobbed about how heartless and cruel I was. "He got rich, and he didn't want me anymore. He took everything from me." Mrs. Peterson listened, her brow furrowing deeper and deeper, until she finally cut her off. "Heartless." The old woman's voice was not loud, but it carried a weight that was deafening. "Child, are you confused about something? Do you remember why Cole went to those dangerous places in the first place? Isabella froze. Wasn't it? To make money. It was to pay for your mother's medical bills. Mrs. Peterson's voice rose sharply. Your mother had kidney failure and needed a $100,000 transplant, and your family couldn't afford it. It was Cole who heard you could make a fortune doing private security overseas and went without a second thought. His first year there, he was caught in a convoy ambush. Half his body was buried in debris. He almost didn't make it. One of his buddies had to dig him out with his bare hands. Isabella's sobbing stopped. She listened, stunned. I had never told her any of this. Mrs. Peterson continued. Another time, he was protecting a client from local insurgents and got stabbed in the thigh. He hid in the jungle for 3 days and 3 nights with no food. The wound got infected. He almost died of sepsis. Every time he came home, he only told you the good news. The scars on his body, he told you they were just from accidents on the job. Did you think he was sitting in an office overseas, living a life of luxury? Do you think that money just fell from the sky? Every single dollar was paid for with his life. The more she spoke, the angrier Mrs. Peterson got. She pulled a worn, creased photo from her pocket and thrust it into Isabella's hand. See for yourself. He sent this to me back then. He didn't dare send it to you. He was afraid you'd worry. In the photo, I was shirtless, covered in grime, a thick bandage wrapped around my left arm. Behind me was a crude, dilapidated barracks. But I was grinning at the camera, a wide, brilliant, foolish smile. It was a smile full of hope for the future, full of love for the family waiting at home. Isabella looked at the young, dark-skinned, vibrant man in the photo. She thought back on all those years she had lived in a mansion, driven sports cars, and complained that I was uncultured, unromantic, and never home. She had always assumed I was running some ordinary international business. She never imagined that every designer item she owned, every dollar she wasted, could have been paid for by one of my brushes with death. An overwhelming tsunami of regret and guilt drowned her. She finally understood what she had thrown away. It wasn't a cash machine. It was a man who had once seen her as his entire world, a man willing to bet his life for her. She collapsed onto the dirty stairs, covering her face with her hands, and let out a guttural, animalistic howl of despair. But in this world, there are no second chances. Her breakdown had come far too late. The complete mental collapse led Isabella to an extreme act. She somehow found out that I was scheduled to attend an important charity gala. Like a gambler who had lost everything, she decided to make one final, desperate bet with the only chip she had left, her life. The gala was a star-studded event, filled with the city's elite. As the guest of honor and largest donor, I was on stage giving a speech, announcing the future philanthropic plans of Apex Strategic Holdings. Suddenly, a figure broke through security and rushed onto the stage, looking completely deranged. It was Isabella. Her hair was a mess, her eyes were wild, and in her hand, she held the cold, gleaming blade of a fruit knife. "Cole!" she screamed, pressing the knife to her own throat. A thin line of blood immediately appeared on her pale skin. The entire hall was in an uproar. The photographer's flashes went off like a machine gun, capturing the dramatic scene. "Are you really this heartless?" she cried, tears streaming down her face. "If you ignore me again, I'll die right here in front of you." Security guards started to move in, but I raised a hand, signaling them to stay back. All eyes were on me, waiting to see how I would handle this madwoman. I wasn't flustered in the slightest. I calmly took another microphone from the host. I looked at her, at the familiar, manipulative insanity in her eyes. "Isabella," I said, using her full name for the first time. 15 years ago, in a war-torn desert, I took a knife for a teammate to save his life. The blade missed my heart by less than an inch. My voice carried clearly through the banquet hall. "If today, you need to threaten me with your death to get me to come back to you," I paused, then said, word by word, "then that only proves you are no longer worthy of me taking a knife for you." With that, I turned away from her and faced the audience and the media. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you." My voice was calm, but it carried the force of a thunderclap. "This woman is my ex-wife. She used the money I earned risking my life to keep a lover. She stood in a stairwell and laughed with him, saying that even if I came home, I would only feel sorry for her." The hall fell silent, followed by a wave of shocked gasps and whispers. Today, I'd like to take this opportunity to make an announcement. I raised the microphone, my voice booming. I have decided, on behalf of Apex Strategic Holdings, to establish the Guardia Heart Foundation with an initial endowment of $100 million. This foundation will be dedicated to providing free legal aid and mental health support to those who have been betrayed, hurt, and abandoned in a marriage or relationship by a loyal partner. because I know what it feels like to be stabbed in the back by the person you trust the most. We should not feel sorry for the betrayers. We should feel sorry for and protect the one who was hurt, ourselves. When I finished, a moment of silence was followed by a deafening roar of applause that went on and on. Everyone was on their feet, clapping for my words, for my decision. Amid the thunderous applause, Isabella fell into complete despair. Her attempt at emotional blackmail had only served to make me look nobler, while she was humiliated even more thoroughly. She had become nothing more than a stepping stone for my ascent to the moral high ground, a clown in her own tragedy. The knife clattered to the floor. Her body went limp, as if her soul had been ripped out. She collapsed on the stage and was unceremoniously carried away by the security guards who rushed up. From beginning to end, I never gave her another glance. Her madness, her life, or death, what did it have to do with me? The incident at the gala made me and the Guardian Heart Foundation famous overnight. I was transformed from a cold-hearted avenger into an icon and protector for countless people who had been betrayed. The reputation of Apex Strategic Holdings soared to new heights. My life was finally free of the shadows of the past, set on a brand new course. I began to spend a great deal of time with my daughter. That weekend, I took Maya to the amusement park she had been talking about for months. I rode the carousel with her, bought her a giant cotton candy, and screamed alongside her on the roller coaster. Maya sat on my shoulders, laughing happily. "Daddy, I haven't seen you smile like this in so long." A pang of sadness hit my heart, followed by a wave of infinite tenderness. She was right. For the past 15 years, I had lived under too heavy a burden. Just then, a gentle voice spoke from behind me. "Mr. Matthews? What a coincidence." I turned to see Claire Sterling. She was a business partner, a senior partner at a top law firm, and the lead legal counsel for the Guardian Heart Foundation. A remarkably independent, intelligent, and capable woman. Beside her was a boisterous little boy, her nephew. Ms. Sterling, small world. The two kids quickly started playing together. Claire and I fell into a natural conversation, strolling side by side. We talked about work, the future, and raising children. I saw admiration and respect in her eyes, but no calculation, no greed. It was an exchange between equals. That evening, the four of us rode the Ferris wheel together. As our car reached the top, the thousands of city lights spread out beneath us like a blanket of stars. Maya, exhausted from the day, had fallen asleep in my arms. Claire opened her bag, took out a small, soft blanket, and gently draped it over Maya. Her movements were so natural, so thoughtful. My heart stirred. All of this was being watched by a shadowy figure from a distance. It was Isabella. She had been released from the psychiatric hospital. She was wearing ill-fitting clothes she had clearly found somewhere. Her hair was a dry, matted mess. She was emaciated, her eyes hollow, a ghost wandering the world of the living. She saw the smile I gave another woman, a smile even I hadn't noticed. She saw my daughter, who didn't shrink away from the blanket offered by that woman, but instead slept more soundly. Jealousy, regret, and an endless agony gnawed at her heart like 1,000 venomous snakes. That was supposed to be her place. That embrace was supposed to be her daughter's refuge. That man's gentle smile was supposed to belong only to her. She wanted to rush over, to scream, to push that woman away, but her feet felt as if they were cast in lead. She knew she was out of the game for good. She could only watch like a pathetic voyeur from the shadows as the happiness that should have been hers was so easily claimed by someone else. And I never even knew she was there. Time is the best medicine and the cruelest knife. A few years later, Apex Strategic Holdings had expanded globally, becoming an undisputed titan of the industry. My relationship with Claire had grown steadily, and we were engaged, planning our wedding. Maya had grown into a confident, cheerful, and beautiful young woman. My life was as perfect as a fairy tale. As for Isabella, she had vanished completely from my world. I thought our lives would never cross again. Until that day, my motorcade was passing through an old part of the city undergoing construction. Traffic was at a standstill. Annoyed, I put down my documents and glanced out the window. Across the street, I saw a figure in an orange sanitation worker's uniform, struggling to sweep trash from the curb. Her back was hunched, her movements slow, her hair already streaked with gray. Though she had aged and withered, I recognized her instantly. It was Isabella. A man who looked like a supervisor was standing with his hands on his hips, yelling at her. She just kept her head bowed, nodding meekly like a frightened quail. She had once been so proud, so obsessed with her appearance and her dignity. Now, she had become the very thing she used to despise. Perhaps my stare was too intense. She seemed to feel something and looked up blankly. Across the traffic, through the crowds, her eyes met mine. In that instant, her expression convulsed with shock, shame, a bone-deep regret, and a faint, almost invisible plea. And I just looked at her, my face a blank mask, like I was looking at a complete stranger on the side of the road. There was no hatred, no pity, not even a ripple of emotion. My heart was perfectly still. The light turned green. The chauffeur gently pressed the accelerator, and the Rolls-Royce glided forward. I pulled my gaze away and pressed the button to raise the window. The face, etched with regret and pain, was slowly, completely blocked by the dark, soundproof glass. Finally, it disappeared in the rearview mirror, gone from sight. This reunion of worlds apart was the final movement in a long symphony of revenge. For a proud person, the ultimate punishment is not destruction, but complete and utter indifference. She was still struggling in her own personal hell, while I had long since ascended to heaven. When I got home, the warmth of the house greeted me at the door. Claire was in the kitchen wearing an apron, and Maya was helping her, the two of them laughing and talking. The dining table was set with a beautiful meal and a bouquet of fresh flowers, filled with a comforting domestic peace. "Dad, you're home," Maya cried, running over to me. "What were you looking at in the car for so long?" I smiled, knelt down and ruffled her hair. "Nothing. Just saw someone I used to know a long time ago. Someone I had already left behind and forgotten." After dinner, while Claire and Maya were watching TV in the living room, I went to my study and poured myself a glass of red wine. I stood before the massive floor-to-ceiling window, looking out at the glittering skyline of the city. The image of Isabella's regret-filled face did not surface in my mind. Instead, I thought of the young man I was 15 years ago with a worn-out backpack, stepping onto foreign soil for the first time. Back then, my mind held only one simple, stubborn thought: make money so my wife and child could have the best life in the world. I used to feel that the naive man I wasn't worth it, that those 15 years of sacrifice were foolish. But I don't think that way anymore. Without those 15 years of walking through fire, there would be no unbreakable Cole Matthews today. Without that soul-crushing betrayal, there would not be the clear-headed, powerful man I am now. I'm not forgiving her. I'm forgiving myself. Forgiving my past naivete, my past obsessions. Forgiving myself for once tying my entire self-worth to another person. I raised my glass, toasting the city lights outside and toasting the reflection in the glass. To the man who died in that 11th floor hallway, I said softly and drained the glass in one swallow. From now on, I, Cole Matthews, live for myself. And for those who love me. Everything in the past is just smoke in the wind. A year later, Claire and I were married on a private island in the Maldives. Sun, sand, and brilliant blue sea. Our closest friends and family were there with us. Maya, in a beautiful dress, was our flower girl, and she brought us our rings with a radiant smile. I placed a ring on Claire's finger. She was not a woman I needed to protect, but a partner who could stand beside me, a companion for my soul, and the person with whom I would spend the rest of my life. "I do," she said, her eyes shining with happy tears. I smiled back. During the reception, my assistant came to my side to give me a quiet update. After he finished with business, he hesitated for a moment before adding, "Sir, is Rossi. She remarried." The hand holding my wine glass didn't pause. "Oh, yes. She married a general construction worker. I hear things are tight. They argue a lot about money." My assistant watched my expression carefully as he continued. "A few days ago, she tried to get in touch with you through a third party. Said she regrets everything, that she knows she was wrong. Said she'd do anything, be a servant, just to see you one more time." I held up my hand, cutting him off. "You don't need to report things like this to me anymore." My voice was calm, as if I were listening to a piece of irrelevant news. "Yes, sir." My assistant immediately fell silent. I turned and walked toward my new bride and my daughter. They were at the water's edge, chasing the waves, their laughter bright and clear. The sun was warm, the breeze gentle. Her life was the endless inferno she had chosen for herself. My life was facing the ocean, where flowers bloom in the spring warmth. We would have no connection, ever again.